The Salad Days by C.A. Wynn. The cat slunk along the corridor, her hips swaying as though she were trying to put me to sleep. I wished I could go to sleep, but I couldn't. At that moment, I was just an observer, a chronicler of little consequence. If an emergency arose, I was the one who had to set things right. If only I could walk like that. There's such grace in the movement of a feline, its body slinking in rhythm to an unheard cadence, its eyes shifting on every other beat. There's a music to it. I've never heard the music myself, but maybe I could. It puts me to sleep just thinking about it. You never can tell where a cat has been or where it's going, someone said to me. I turned to find someone standing, something they rarely did. For me, thrust gravity was necessary. As a metamorph, someone could move easily without gravity, passing through walls and sliding along floors. They could also become anyone, or anything they wanted to be, even a cat. It all depended on their mood. I once asked them why they chose the name Someone. Who gets to pick their own name? They had asked. Did you pick your name? Well, yes, I'd said. Dim is not my real name. It's a reminder that I'm diminutive. Someone had laughed. There isn't anything more obvious than that. Right, but it keeps people from calling me small or tiny or other things I don't like, I said. See, you could change your name to something else too. Would something else be better than someone? Someone asked. I meant something like Nancy or Charlie, I said. Those are human names, said someone. Don't other metamorphs have real names, I asked. My real name is Someone, they said. I'd much rather be someone than no one. These were the sorts of things we talked about while floating for months in the darkness of space. We also discussed the types of emergencies we might encounter. Since I'd never had to deal with an actual crisis, all of these were hypothetical. In my experience, those are the best kind. I'd been the triage officer aboard the Kaivalya for a long time by then. Someone had been sent to replace me. I wondered if they would replace the cat as well. She'd been a part of the crew almost as long as I had. The cat sauntered down the corridor. Any idea what the cat is thinking? I asked. Someone pressed their hand into the wall. I wasn't sure whether the wall color changed or if their hand melted into the wall first, absorbing the color as it did. Their body followed their hand into the darkness, vanishing into a vertical puddle. That's where the story gets tricky. It's something I never understood. I had vocal cords. Did someone have vocal cords? If they didn't, how did they make sound? How did I hear their voice, even when they were changed into something completely different, like a wall? Someone's face surfaced, their eyes darting about. Cats never think of much, they said. It's not that they're incapable, rather, it's indifference. The red warning lights began blinking. There was no sound, but there didn't need to be. You couldn't escape the flashing. If the issue were more pronounced, the sirens would have sounded. Up to that point, there had been no sirens. I had only heard the sirens twice since joining the Kaivalya, and both were false alarms. I looked forward to the day when I was so far from sirens that I didn't know what to do with myself. I headed down the corridor, following the cat. I could see someone moving in the wall. The changes in texture, the ripples of matter morphing. I don't think I was supposed to see that. Someone was getting sloppy. I turned the corner to find the cat seated in the middle of the next corridor, licking herself. She drew her moist paw across her head, apparently indifferent to the flashing lights. A gentle purr was the only sound she made. The Kaivalya had a hum. I like to think of it as the vessel's purr. The sound reminded me that there was only silence outside in the vacuum. While I hoped one day to be away from the sirens, I would miss the sound of the ship. I found it comforting. Someone emerged from the wall beyond the cat. Like a bandage slowly torn from a wound, they drew themselves from the cold gray metal of the vessel. "Don't we need to check on the alarm?" they asked. I waved at them to keep moving. "The sensors probably just registered an asteroid or something. You go ahead and see." I reached the hatch at the end of the corridor. It was still closed. Someone could pass through the walls, so they didn't bother to open it. I pulled hard on the hatch, managing to swing it just enough to get by. It took all of my weight to shut it. They don't make ships for people my size. When I got to the flight deck, I didn't know what to expect. It wasn't just the alarm. Sometimes it was hard to spot someone in there. "How can you blend in with all the electronics?" I asked. Someone's voice came from behind me. "It's a trick of the light, and isn't everything light?" Someone's gray form passed in front of me, settling in the navigator's chair. They had learned that I usually started my investigation there. "How away from Alcyon are we?" someone asked. I reached around them to activate the navigation system. "Same as yesterday, only closer." Someone frowned. "You really should work on being more precise. What I wanted to know was, how much longer will it be before we arrive?" The red light on the nav screen flashed. I switched through different displays until I found the issue. Seems we're off course. I sat down in the pilot's seat to access the ship's other systems. Someone huffed. "Will that delay us?" "Maybe a little," I said. "It depends on how far off course we had to go." "So you won't say how long it will be? Tell me again why they put you in charge?" someone asked. The display before me went blank. I tried to correct it, but someone's head popped out in front of me, blocking the monitor. They turned to look my way, their eyes expanded to the size of large melons. I scowled as I pushed their head aside. "My eyes did not get that big," I said. "Of course not. Everything about you is small," said someone. "You know I prefer diminutive," I said. "I prefer you answer my questions," someone said. "Why do they allow you to do this?" "Do what? Maintain the ship?" I asked. Someone pressed a finger to the monitor. Their whole body followed it, flowing into the screen. They reappeared among the graphs and numbers, a miniature version of their gray self. It reminded me of watching old vids as a child. There was always an overly friendly host of the show who would appear next to the on-screen text. I asked, "Who's small now?" "I can choose any size," someone said. "I'm flattered you chose to be diminutive like me," I said. I wasn't really flattered. I just wanted someone to get out of my way. I found the cause of the course change. The Kaivalya's systems had detected a large mass some distance ahead. The readout did not provide details of the object, only that it was blocking light from distant stars. Automated systems had introduced a correction. The ship would adjust its course when we passed the object. I acknowledged the course correction in the log. With that, the warning lights went out. I switched screens and activated external sensors. Someone used that cue to finally disappear from the screen. I was glad they were gone. It was hard enough reading a screen without a dancing metamorph to distract me. External sensors showed Alcyon and its sisters shining in the distance. Our destination was in the vicinity of those 4 stars. "You still haven't told me why they let you do this," said someone. I spun my head around, but someone was nowhere to be found. "I have told you," I said, "many times." "You've given me reasons," someone said, "but that's not enough." "What more do you want?" I asked. Someone's arms emerged from the chair and wrapped around me. I jumped away, wiping at my clothes. "I wouldn't try to absorb you," someone said with a laugh. You know I don't like that, I said. Besides, you're supposed to be learning how to do this. Now you're just changing the subject, someone said. No, I am the subject. Why do you think it's funny to pop out of things and grab me like that? I asked. Someone reformed into their standard gray and stepped away from the seat, enticing me to sit. I wouldn't. The cat brushed up against my leg, her purr growing louder. Someone reached to pet her, scratching the top of her head. The cat pushed against someone's hand. See? She likes it when I touch her, said someone. Only when she wants to be touched, I said, sitting heavily in the seat. Someone stepped toward one of the large windows looking out into space. They stared at something or nothing. At that point, I didn't care which. I tried to concentrate on the screen, struggling through my anger. It's funny, isn't it? Someone asked. What's funny? I asked. Out here, everything is small, someone said. Even a massive star is puny. My blood boiled. I cursed the flight planner again. I'd had to put up with someone's insolence for months. I could have taught them everything I knew in less than a week. Why did we have to emerge so far from our destination? You told me they hired you to do this because of your size, said someone. Size can be important. Well, maybe useful is a better word. And your point? I asked. They have these systems, intricate computers operating complex machines, yet they rely on you to make sure it's all working, said someone. We had discussed this dozens of times. I never understood someone's fascination with the question. Yes, I filled the role because of my size. I required less oxygen, less food, less of everything. Despite the remarkable things the systems could do, they could not be relied on to deal with chaos. Our feline friend is here to eat the rodents, said someone. You are here to deal with the unknown. Now you are here to deal with the unknown, I snapped. Why can't we train computers to respond to chaos? Someone asked. At that point, I still hadn't let go of my anger. Tell me again what happens to you in vacuum, I said. If a metamorph could shudder, this was the question that did it best. You know what happens, said someone. I smiled to myself. Just like you know that I hate being called small. Being called small can't be as bad as going from something to nothing, said someone. The warning lights flashed again. This time, the siren sounded too. I clapped my hands over my ears and scanned the screen. Nothing there explained the alarm. The klaxons meant an early wake-up for the crew, and I still had no idea why. I tried to extinguish the lights again, but I could only silence the alarm. We're off course, someone shouted. I told you we were off course, I said. The system directed us around a large object. Why are we still headed for it then? Someone asked. Someone was right. There was still something in our way. At last, they understood telemetry. For some reason, the system could only estimate the object's size as larger than a small moon. It was not specific, except to indicate that the object appeared more solid near its center than at the edges. We were moving too fast to stop in time. I would have to redirect the ship. If the automated systems hadn't already tried that, I would not have hesitated. I think it changed, I said. Someone's voice cracked. What changed? When the system adjusted the first time, I said, the object changed trajectory. The Kaivalya altered course again, but the thing keeps responding. How could it do that? Someone asked. I don't know. Maybe it's a ship, I said. Out here? Asked someone. Someone's panic was starting to get to me. Our job is to remain calm, I said. You know we aren't the only ones who can travel in space. Someone didn't respond, and I didn't have time to worry about it. I switched back to the nav display and fired maneuvering thrusters. The Kaivalya moaned around us, absorbing the abrupt change. After several minutes, I killed the thrusters. As I waited to see if the object would respond, I calculated the force necessary to bring the ship to a stop. At this distance and speed, that would be too dangerous. Unless something changed, we would hit it, whatever it was. The object took all of my options off the table. Not only did it respond to our change in direction, but it had also picked up speed. "They are moving to intercept us," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Intercept?" asked someone. "Why would they do that?" "I'm still trying to figure out how," I said. "It looks too big to be a ship." The object approached at high speed. The Kaivalya wouldn't be fast enough to outrun it. I fired thrusters again, this time to swing the Kaivalya around 180 degrees and trigger a braking burn. I didn't push the G-forces too far because we could never stop in time anyway. Someone leaned over my shoulder. "Why are you stopping us?" "I thought maybe that thing sees us as a threat," I said. "If we are no longer moving toward Alcyon, it might leave us alone." Someone tilted their head. "Why would they think we are a threat?" "I have no idea what they think," I said, "but it looks like they're trying to block us from going to those stars. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but if you have a better idea..." Someone shook their head. "Now I see why they let you do this." The object adjusted to our new speed, maintaining its intercept course. At the rate it was going, we would soon be able to see it. I switched the nav screen from sensors to visual. "Whatever it is, it's massive. You should be prepared," I warned. Someone stretched their neck out of proportion. "Why me?" "So you know when it gets here that the Kaivalya will look tiny next to it," I said. "I thought you preferred diminutive," said someone. I didn't bother to answer. My eyes were scanning the images from the external cameras. 4 stars, including Alcyon, were visible in the background. They backlit the object as it approached. At times, it blocked one or more of the stars. Before long, it hit all of them. Despite this, the thing was still several 100,000 kilometers away. The ship's proximity alarm sounded when the object got within 50,000 clicks. At that distance, sensors couldn't register the outer limits of the approaching mass. I killed the alarm and redirected the sensors several times. Nothing I did gave me more information. This thing was one big, fast-moving mystery. It was still several thousand clicks off. Without warning, the ship fell silent. Its purr gone along with the gravity. I strapped myself to the seat and switched the screen back to telemetry. As I feared, we had stopped moving. I didn't bother to tell myself that such a thing was impossible. My eyes must have been big as saucers. Someone screamed as they melted into the wall. Their cry faded, leaving only the faint purr of the cat. I turned my head toward the sound and found her floating up from the floor. "Someone?" I called. Someone's voice was small, like a frightened child. "What happened?" "I don't know," I said. "We're not moving anymore." Someone's head poked out from the wall, looking side to side. They tore themselves away, forming again nearby. I reached for the cat, straining against my straps. Someone came over and nudged the cat to me. She landed in my arms, still purring. "What should we do now?" I asked. "You're the one who's supposed to figure these things out," said someone. "Yes, and before long, you'll be the one who has to figure them out," I reminded them. "I'm having second thoughts about that," said someone. We fell silent for several minutes, listening. I already missed the hum of the ship. "Can you tell if we're inside something?" I asked. "How could we be inside something?" asked someone. I told you, the thing is massive, I said. Well, how would I know if we're inside it? They asked. Can't you move through the walls to see if something is holding us? I asked. Silence. Someone? I called. I'm thinking, they said. Are you afraid? I asked. Maybe a little, they said. That's understandable, but what's the worst that could happen? I asked. Someone's voice wavered. Vacuum. I shook my head. But you could feel if you were leaving something solid, or if there was no atmosphere to cling to, right? After a few moments, I watched them melt into the floor. Wait, I yelled. How will we keep in touch? I'll tie into the ship's comm, they said. I switched to sensors and tried again to get readings from outside the ship. My mind raced through all of the known objects it could be. None of them fit. The sensors were unhelpful, leaving me to imagine all sorts of impossibilities. My mind settled on an image of the Kaivalya stuck in a massive vat of gelatin. If that were true, the ship's systems refused to confirm it. They offered nothing but darkness, stillness, and silence. Maybe my vat of gelatin wasn't far off, but I have no way of proving it. I heard a sound. It wasn't the cat or the Kaivalya. Instead, it was a different sort of hum, like something warm and breathing was nearby. How could that be? Nothing lived in vacuum. Only then did I think of the window on the flight deck. I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me sooner. There, I should find the field of stars floating unreachable in the distance. Maybe I could see what stopped us. I glanced over and saw nothing but complete darkness. Not even the stars were there to remind us we were alive. Dim? Someone called through the comm. I'm here, I said. Where are you? I have no idea, they said. Are you still on the Kaivalya? I asked. No, definitely not, they said. Then we're being held, I said. No doubt about that either, they said. Can you hear that sound? I asked. What is it? The sensors still tell me nothing. Someone fell silent. I switched the nav display around, but found nothing I hadn't already seen. Dim? Someone called again. Yes, I'm here. Where are you? I already told you, they said. I have no idea. So not on the Kaivalya and not anywhere you can describe, I said. Wherever it is, it's nice, said someone. Nice? I asked. Someone, you're scaring me. What's going on? What is that sound? What do you see? Dim? Why do you prefer diminutive? Someone asked. I didn't want to have that conversation at that moment. Someone, you need to focus. What do you see? I asked. Something is holding us, they said. Maybe I should say it has embraced us. It's sort of like the difference between small and diminutive. Can you tell me what it is? I asked. It's something, they said. I'm going to need more than that, I said. Do you know what it's like to be a metamorph? They asked. No, someone. I have no idea what it's like to be you, I said. Right, you only know what it's like to be diminutive, they said. What's your point? I asked. Someone fell silent for several seconds. When they finally responded, it was through a giggle. I guess I don't have a point. Looking back on my life, I often reflect on the things I've done, the places I've visited, and the people I've known. There are the firsts and the lasts and the things in between. Alcyon was one of the special times, my final tour on the Kaivalya. It was also the last time I heard someone's voice. Reflecting on it, I wonder if I could have known or perhaps even expected it. Was there something to warn me to remember that moment? Was there a way to know that someone would disappear into something. The warning lights on the ship suddenly stopped blinking. I looked toward the window and found a blanket of stars. It was as it always had been, out of reach. In my lap was the cat, her familiar purr now accompanied by the droning of the ship. We weren't moving, but at least we were humming. I sat and waited for the crew. They still had a few hours of recovery from stasis, but I no longer felt any urgency. The sensors reported no anomalies to be concerned about. I had only someone's absence to explain. When we returned from Alcyon, I found a small cabin on a remote planet and settled into a quiet life. The locals call me Tiny. I don't mind. The captain of the Kaivalya let me take the cat. I call her someone. I often wonder if she misses being weightless. Now she sits in the window of our little house, keeping the rodents at bay. We never found out what happened to someone. The ship's sensors were no help, and no one believed my story. I didn't care. My only hope was that someone had found peace, or at least became something else. End of The Salad Days by C.A.WynnSciFi.